All right, so very last lesson. I won't finish it today though, because it's really long, but I thought I'd start it today and then I'd be guaranteed to finish it on Monday. Okay, now what we're going to be looking at here are biomes of the world, and this is not, well, it's related to the factors affecting climate and climatograms. That's kind of where it's going to fit in with the stuff we learned there kind of before Christmas, okay, about that stuff. So what you're going to be asked to do is match up a biome. Incidentally, a biome is an ecological region on Earth. Okay, so like the tropical rainforest is a type of biome, right? The tundra is a type of biome, things like that. Everyone with me there? So what you're going to be required to do with these biomes is be able to identify one from a picture or a description, or both. It's actually both. Okay. In all cases, what I've done in the multiple choice section of both your unit and final exams is put a picture of a biome and given a description of lots of things about it. Its climate, its plant life, its animal life, its soil structure, whatever. Okay, so there's a bunch of information there. You look at the picture, read that stuff, and go, okay, it's that biome. Right, so you have to do that. That's one of the things you'll have to do. And the other thing you'll have to do is I'll give you a climatogram, and you have to tell me what biome it goes with and why. That's probably the trickiest thing you'll have to do with the biomes. Okay, is look at a climatogram and go, okay, this climatogram is saying that the temperature barely changes throughout the year. So it's definitely nothing that's not near the equator. Right? It wouldn't be like tundra, and it wouldn't be taiga, and it wouldn't be anything in the north, because the further away from the equator you go, the bigger the bell curve gets. So it's definitely an equatorial biome. And it looks like it gets practically no precipitation. So it's probably a desert. Okay, there you go. That's what, so you'd have to write out, here's what the climatogram says. It says the climate looks like this. That seems to fit with this type of biome because this type of biome has blah, blah, blah. All right, that's what you'd be expected to do on a question like that. So those are the two things you'll have to do with all the stuff that's in this lesson. The reason this lesson is so long is because I have to go through so many different biomes, and there's lots of characteristics for each one. Questions so far? Okay. So here's a map of all the biomes as we understand them, okay, on planet Earth. So anywhere where you see this kind of light Kelly green here, okay, is a tropical rainforest biome. Okay, so there's obviously lots here in South America because that's where the Amazon is. Okay, so the Amazon rainforest is down there. We have a few rainforests in Africa. Okay, mostly kind of on the Horn of Africa, a little bit here in the south part, right, and obviously on the eastern parts and a bit on Madagascar here. Okay, and then most of Southeast Asia is also tropical rainforest. So this would be like very southern parts of China, Laos, Vietnam, okay, places like that. And then obviously all of the kind of South Pacific areas here, like Papua New Guinea and places like that, are all tropical rainforests. Okay, questions so far? Okay, so that's where the tropical rainforest is located. What do you notice about all the tropical rainforest? Where is it? Okay, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's near the ocean, although you could argue that this part of the Amazon maybe isn't, but it's all around the equator. Yeah, like basically you don't see very much tropical rain. You see no tropical rainforest more than 30 degrees north or south of the equator. All right, so if I'm looking at, a climatogram of a tropical rainforest, it's going to show a temperature bar that is, or temperature line, sorry, that is flat. Okay, it's an equatorial climate, so there's not much temperature change. Okay, if it's going to be a rainforest, it's probably going to get a lot of rain. So you'd be looking at precipitation bars that are fairly even and fairly high all the way across. Okay, that's not to say that tropical rainforests don't have a dry season, okay, but their dry season would still be torrential flooding here. All right. Okay, next one is the Savannah. Okay, so that's going to be anything that's kind of this tan color. So there's a bit of that in South America. Most of that is human produced as opposed to naturally occurring as the result of deforestation. Okay, there's a lot of it here that's kind of more naturally occurring, kind of like Argentina, Chile kind of places. And then most of Africa, okay, is savanna, and that's kind of where we would, remember or think of Savannah being, because that's where, lions and tigers, but not bears, okay, would be located and things like that. There's a little bit of it in Australia near the coastlines, especially northern Australia, okay, but really that's about it. It's another one that, again, is mostly an equatorial climate. Again, there's a few kind of exceptions to that, but not much, okay. Most of it stays between 30 degrees latitude north or south. Okay, the difference between savanna and tropical rainforest is this is a forest, and the savanna is usually like a tropical grassland. Okay, so it definitely has seasons in terms of precipitation, right? So the savanna would start out with like monsoons. It would pour buckets for months at a time, and then it won't rain again for 6 months, right? So you can't really keep a tropical rainforest going if you're going to have drought for 6 months and flooding for 6 months. It needs to be kind of steady. All right, next one is kind of the gold color here. Okay, the kind of darker gold color, and that's going to be our desert biomes. Okay, so if you're kind of looking around, there's a desert biome right here. Okay, there's a fairly good sized desert biome right there. Okay, and then obviously there's the Sahara. So like all of the northern part of Africa and the Middle East and all of that. Okay, Central Australia also is desert. Okay, you got a little bit of desert in here, kind of like Arizona, kind of Nevada, that kind of area. What do you notice about a lot of these? What are they behind? Mountains. Yeah. Okay. These are the Himalayas right here. Okay. So that's the Gobi Desert. Okay. It's a rain shadow desert, high altitude rain shadow desert. And then obviously in the middle of Australia there, it's just hard for moisture to make it all the way into the inland. Okay. The Sahara just happens to be in a place where the winds go the wrong way and they don't bring any moisture to it. Okay. So most of the winds that would be blowing onto the Sahara would blow this direction. Okay, because that's the part of the world it's in when we talked about prevailing wind patterns the other day. So is there any moisture coming from that area? No. Okay, and any moisture that's there is actually blowing out onto the ocean. So it creates a very, very dry kind of an area. Okay, this would be a rain shadow desert down here as well. Okay, and obviously up there. So are all deserts hot? No. Okay, desert doesn't have to be hot. Okay, it just has to be dry. Right. So there are different kinds of deserts, but we generally clump them into one biome because they are so incredibly dry. Yes, but we call it extreme desert. It's its own separate biome, okay, because it's usually frozen, like completely frozen. So there is water there, but it's locked up. Yeah. Okay, so that's the next one, extreme desert. So you see this kind of bluish white color here. Okay, you see that all along the tops of all the mountain ranges because that's where glaciers and stuff would be found. Okay, you see it most of Greenland is that color. Okay, again, tops of mountain ranges, things like that. And the only continent missing from this map because it's buried under the legend would be Antarctica, which would be entirely that color. Okay, all of Antarctica is extreme deserts, nothing but rocks and ice and penguins. Okay, so that's what you would find there. Okay, it's a pretty extreme place to be, very, very dry. In fact, the driest continent on Earth is Antarctica. Okay, it actually gets very little snowfall, but it's covered in ice, but there's very little liquid water present there. Okay. All right. Next one, chaparral, which we also sometimes call the Mediterranean climate. Okay, I can't imagine why. Same way you spell it for the community in South Calgary. Chaparral. Okay. There is a little chunk of chaparral in a few other places. Southern California. Okay. And there's a little bit here on the tip of Australia and a little tip here on the end of Africa there. So South Africa kind of area. Okay, so most of it, though, is around the Mediterranean, which is why it's usually referred to as the Mediterranean climate. It's hot, it's fairly dry, but it's not desert-like. Okay, there is precipitation there. Okay, you do get like trees and grasses and things like that growing, right? But it is quite hot and fairly dry. Right? If you've ever been to Southern California, like you've been to like LA or even like Palm Springs would even kind of still be in that kind of area. The Napa Valley would be in that part of it. Okay, that's that kind of a climate. If you've been to Italy, okay, or anywhere like Italy, Greece, places like that, that's the Mediterranean or chaparral climate. Yes, that is some of the best climates for growing grapes. Yeah, the French would argue that, okay, but it would be hard to. That is usually where most of them are grown. Yeah. All right. Temperate grasslands. Okay, there's actually a bunch of different names for temperate grasslands, but the kind of universal or international name is temperate grasslands. In Canada, we call them prairies. In Asia, they're called steppe, S-T-E-P-P-E. Okay, I don't know why everyone calls it different, but they're temperate grasslands. Okay, and you'll probably notice that there's a bit of a pattern to them as well. You often find them in the rain shadows, okay, of mountain ranges as well, right? But they are definitely kind of prairie-like, which means they're going to be dry, but they're going to have seasonality. That's what makes them different from the savanna. Okay, they're dry, but there's definite seasons, a summer and a winter, as opposed to it's kind of hot all year. Right? So generally you find the prairies or the grasslands generally, okay, north of 30 degrees or south of 30 degrees, but there are a few exceptions, okay, in South America. All right, temperate deciduous forest. Much of central Canada and the United States is that, okay? And at least naturally, most of Europe would be that. Unfortunately, the Industrial Revolution took care of a lot of those trees, okay? A lot of them got taken down, so it's not quite as natural as it used to be, okay? But this is forest where the trees do what every year? Lose their leaves. A deciduous tree loses its leaves. Okay? They lose their leaves because this biome is another biome that has distinct seasons. There's definitely a summer and a winter, okay, where the plants would have to go dormant, okay, by losing their leaves. So generally, those are the places you see them. You don't see that anywhere around the equator. Right? There's a tiny bit of it here on the edge of Australia, and that's it. The rest of it is pretty much a northern hemisphere climate. We are definitely in the middle of the temperate grasslands. Yeah. No, it's not to say that you can't have deciduous trees growing in the temperate grasslands, but they're patchy, right? Like there'll be a grove of trees and a grove of trees here. Okay. Whereas in places where it's truly that, they're just everywhere. Okay. So if you've ever, if you've been to Ontario, what it's like around the Lake District. That's kind of yeah. The outback is basically all the uncivilized parts of Australia. So it would include several different biomes. But yeah, the true desert part is considered to be part of the outback. Yeah. Okay, and then we got the taiga. Okay, the taiga is the coniferous forest. So if you've ever been like north of, well, let's say a ways north of Edmonton, you've gone to Fort Mac, okay, been to Fort Mac, Grand Prairie, places like that, you've been in the taiga. Okay, you've gone to Banff, you're in the taiga. Kananaskis, you're in the taiga. Okay, it's basically all spruce trees, like a carpet of them. Okay, so you stand on top of a mountain and all you see are spruce trees everywhere. Okay, that's the taiga. Right? It's a very, very common biome in Canada, probably one of the most common biomes. Okay, reaches way up into the northern parts. Okay, there's a lot of it in Asia, northern Asia, Russia, okay, that kind of place. And it's very resource rich. Okay? And I don't just mean in terms of like lumber and pulp products and things like that, but there's lots of oil reserves and gas reserves also in that biome. Okay? It's very rugged though, very, very rugged area. And then last one we look at is tundra, okay? And tundra actually means treeless. So it's kind of an alpine or Arctic grassland, right? It's not a desert yet, but it's getting there, okay? It's so cold that trees can't grow because the ground is frozen most of the year, okay? So frozen within, let's say, a few inches of the surface. So you can't get deep roots. You can't be a tree in that area, okay? The ground is just too frozen. The taiga biome, variable. Okay, someday, depending on the weather systems that move through. Okay, you could get thunderstorms that move through. It could be really humid, but then the next day it could be quite dry. All right, so those are the biomes that we will go over. Everybody following so far? Okay, we're almost out of time here. Yeah, okay. All right, so tropical rainforest. Anyone ever been to the tropical rainforest? Okay, if you've been to certain parts of Hawaii, like when you go to Hawaii, you actually get a really good kind of taste of the effect of a rain shadow. One side of the island will be all tropical rainforest, and the other side will all be desert. Okay, like all volcanic rock and super hot. Okay, so tropical rainforest is super, super thick. Okay, lots and lots of trees, high humidity, lots of rainfall, all of that kind of stuff. Okay, remember your climatograms activity is due on Monday, so make sure you get it done over the weekend. Okay, Monday start of class, same as always. Yep.